All right, we are now super happy to welcome on former Michigan basketball player and a current talent evaluator for On3 and a recruiting expert for them as well. And I think everyone's favorite Michigan Twitter personality, Ant Wright. Ant, thanks for coming on. We appreciate you.
No problem, man.
All right, and before we kind of talk about Michigan, Illinois, I just kind of have a basketball question for you. So last night, Illinois is playing Nebraska, and Nebraska is down like 10 with 30 seconds left, and their five-star freshman, Bryce McGowens, drives the paint, goes up off his left foot, and punches in a dunk over Omar Payne. And then he kind of he didn't say anything, but he kind of turned around and he did that little flex thing, did that little pose. And I covered the draft, so I posted on Twitter because McGowens is a real prospect, and that was sick. And both Illinois fans and Nebraska fans took exception to it. Like, why are you posing dunking down 10? I mean, did you have a problem with it? Did you have a problem with that? Because I think it's almost human nature. If you dunk over a 6'11" dude, I think it's just going to be human nature to flex. So as someone actually played basketball,
you are first and foremost a competitor, right? Number two, Nebraska's not going to go to an NCAA tournament. They're not going to go to a CBI, CIB, whatever they have now. Definitely not going to go to an NIT. So he's playing for one thing and one thing only. He's playing he wants to compete. He wants to compete at Nebraska's one. But let's be real. He is playing for a lottery draft pick. He is a first round grade right now. And every single play, he wants NBA teams to know that he's not loafing through the rest of the season, even though they're not doing well. Because that happens in the league all the time, where a team can be very, very good for a couple of years, and it happens a lot where a team can be down. Like, look at the Chicago Bulls. I mean, they were not very good coming up to the season, and then something flipped a switch. Some of those guys that were playing on that team when they were not good, other teams, and then in the Bulls themselves, they're paying attention to who's still putting in the extra work, who's coming in every day. So that's another thing. Okay, Bryce McGowens is not stopping. He's still going. He's still trying to come at you, no matter what the score is, what's happening. He's still present in the moment and not thinking about other things. So there is nothing wrong with it. I joke about the whole Drew Timmy thing where he used to do that. Dude, whatever. He did it against Baylor, and I made a joke about it, even though I was like, you know what? At least he's staying consistent. He's keeping that same energy, whether he's up or down. So, people are gonna be, snarky about a lot of things, but there's no issue.
All right, Ant, let's kind of dive into, all the storylines surrounding this game on Friday. We've got Michigan traveling to Champaign for the first time since last year, when Illinois goes up to Ann Arbor and beats them by 20 points, much to the light of Illinois fans after all those storylines. How excited are you as a former Michigan player for this game to finally be here, but also considering all the storylines that are surrounding it?
The storylines come from one place and one place only. That's the Illinois side. Michigan fans don't really care about Illinois outside of just the annoyance of what's going on. I have a question for you guys. Does 1989 sting that much?
As someone
because I had no clue that it's been such a thorn in your side until maybe last year, where I'm just getting jabs. I'm like, who do you even root for? Who's your team? Wait. Hold on, wait. You follow John Gross for how long? That's I'm you're the one talking to me or me right now? Come on, Doggy. What? That's the weird. I'm y'all chased off Bruce Weber. What are we even talking about? Does 1989 sting that bad?
Yeah, okay. So I'm 22. Sim, I think, is 22 now as well. So neither one of us were even thought of / conceived at that point, much before being conceived. But my parents were at Illinois at that time, and my dad still complains about 1989. Because like he was there.
I
It's
had
like
no clue.
we beat them twice during the year. Like it's ridiculous that we lost to them and the way that Illinois lost. Like I do think it still kind of is a thorn in the side for Illinois fans.
That's so funny. That
yeah.
is so funny. Like I never knew it was that bad, and I never knew that they hung on to it. And you know, I say this as like not like as a joke, but it's so weird. It's like Michigan fans look at Illinois as if they're kind of in that like Indiana tier, right? And you know, they're there, right? They've gone to the postseason sometime, you know, at some point in history. But I mean, it's whatever, right? But they look at us
really in the last decade, yeah.
Yeah, like, but they look at Michigan like Ohio State football views Michigan. And it is the weirdest one-way shit-talking fest that I have ever seen in my life. It is so weird. It's just like I'm just sitting here chilling, and I'm just like, yo, who's talking right now? I'll get like a random tweet, just like talking junk about Michigan, and I'm just like going to their page. I'm like, who's this, like a Syracuse fan? So I'll click on their page, and sure enough, it's like hashtag Bulls, hashtag Blackhawks, hashtag Fighting Illini, then a whole bunch of like orange and blue diamonds and like all this stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay, I know where this is coming from. But yeah, like it is the strangest thing that I've had to come to find out. Like not only the fact that there's an Illinois Twitter, but then it really blew up. I'm going on like a tangent, but the Michigan State Illinois game, that blew things up even more. Is that Madi Sissoko, like, first of all, if Dosunmu never loses the ball, that's just a common foul.
Wow.
Right? Because he's coming down for that ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
The ball's not there, and what is there? His face, right? So he gets kicked out the game, and there were so many coded racial words going on for like the next 24 hours. And I always pay attention to a fan base, to the larger accounts who have a lot of influence on the echo chamber, right? And I saw the bigger accounts throwing that around, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's an issue. That's one of the bigger differences between, like, I would say, like the Twitter of like the Michigan State than Illinois. Like Michigan State, like I'm not saying it's like a jurisdiction and we got all this stuff on, but we shut things down. We ratio people who say certain things, but I feel like it just blew up in flames. And so, yeah, that's why, there's no narrative for us in this game. It's more so of us responding to a whole bunch of noise. Honestly, it's wild.
So kind of speaking about this noise, and the last thing I want to touch on from last year, but there seems to be a large collection of Illinois fans that think they were the Big Ten regular season champions or co-champions. Mm-hmm. So much to the point that one of like the more respected Illinois beat writers even asked Kevin Warren about it like 5 months later. But like,
that's what I'm saying.
Like were you just, I mean, and like, I get it. Illinois won more games, but I actually side with Michigan fans. Like the league voted on percentage, including Illinois.
Your AD voted. Your AD.
Yes.
Your AD.
And then they walked it back.
So stupid. Like, okay. Doc, he said this is what we should do. And then don't get mad and don't get mad when like it doesn't turn out the way that you want. Like, you know.
No. Sim and I are both on the same page as you here. We were both like, you voted on this, and now you're only coming out to speak about it because it's convenient for you now, which was ridiculous.
And you got all the buzzwords. We won more games. Well, look at the games back. Like, yo, shut up, guy. Shut up. Yo, I will say this. Illinois was a very good team last year. I said coming into the NCAA tournament that, in my opinion, they had the hardest schedule. They had the hardest route. And Illinois fans blasted me for it. Blasted me. I'm like, explaining to them, like, look, you got to face this. Like, you got to face this. Like, no matter who wins that Loyola game, who else did they play? I forget.
Georgia Tech.
Georgia
Who was
Tech,
their
yeah.
best player?
Great ACC player of the year. Like,
Yeah.
out, but,
So
yeah.
I'm like, look, they like that is not the matchup you want, because you have not played a team who runs, cuts, and executes like that all year. You didn't have a chance to practice against that against Bill Carmody. Bill Carmody is no longer at Northwestern. Okay. You're not guarding back cuts and all these runettes and all these fake handoffs into like a back door and all these different concepts. Bill Carmody, I don't know where he's at. He's like in the Ivy League or something. I don't know. But
He might be at
like,
Holy Cross.
He was, I think, at Holy Cross. I don't know if he's there anymore. He was there at one point.
Because I know Jacob Grandison played for him at Holy Cross, I think. And that was obviously 2-3 years ago. So he might not still be there.
Gotcha. So, like, you didn't want to play Loyola. You are playing very young cats who are playing a lot of minutes. You were playing Adam Miller, plays a lot of minutes. You were playing Andre Curbelo. Those are two true freshmen. I don't care how good you are. If you're seeing true, really hard executed Princeton cutting by seniors and dudes who have played at a Final Four with true freshmen, you can't mimic any of that in practice. Not on one-day prep. Not a chance. So, I don't know, man. It's coming into the season last year, you know, like you have a team like Illinois who had Io, who had all these guys and Kofi and all that. I can probably say that although I think Michigan was a better team, I think Illinois had a shot to win the whole thing last year. And
yeah, I think that's fair.
And I say that because of their backcourt with Io, Trent, and Curbelo. I think those three together, I think they had a really good shot at taking over in close games. And that's what you need to win in the NCAA tournament. You need a very good backcourt. If you look at the backcourts of the past champions, of the past teams who got to the championship game, it's because their backcourt was elite.
Yeah. Elite.
And Curbelo, Trent, and Io, those are the three dudes who, first of all, love the spotlight. Two, you have a pro on your team as well. With those two things, anything is possible in any given tournament. And then you throw in the fact that you got Shaq down there. You got Jamaican Shaq with Kofi, right? He is a monster. And then you got a bunch of glue guys, you know, to come in and, you know, any given game, they can hit you with 10, 12, 13 points. I think they had a better shot at winning it all last year. And I think it's hilarious that they lost in the first weekend. Not gonna, after all that talking, you know.
Yeah, I get
it. And I'm an Illinois fan. I'm a Brad Underwood fan. Underwood is such a good coach. He's such a good coach. I even made like a Twitter video showing you how he adjusted.
Yes.
Like, look, this is how he coached at Stephen F. Austin. This is what he did at Oklahoma State. This is what he did at Illinois, and he was getting his butt kicked. And he was like, wait a minute, I got to change some things. And then that's when you saw him make a full adjustment, abandon his former defense. All of a sudden, he makes a switch. His record went like this. You know? You know?
Yeah. So
if you can adapt, you're just so good.
That's how I kind of want to transition, because, like, you know, I think some people on Twitter might see you as some Illinois hater, but like they actually paid attention. Like, you've made videos on Underwood, how he's adjusted. the incoming class they had this year with both freshmen and transfers. So I feel like you have a pretty good understanding of this roster and this team. So how would you say like they've kind of adjusted this year post IO, and what have you kind of liked from them the times you've caught their games?
Well, first of all, they're playing Coleman Hawkins at the 4. I think that I saw that he hasn't started recently.
Yeah.
I'm not sure like when they made that change.
I think that was the
really
Notre Dame game.
Notre Dame game?
Maybe around then, yeah.
Gotcha. I like Coleman Hawkins a lot. I say that he's very DJ Wilson-y, and that face makes me think that Alec not so much. Or do you? Not sure.
No, it's funny that you say you like Coleman Hawkins because this is a Coleman Hawkins podcast. You will not find a bigger Coleman Hawkins fan than Brandon.
Oh man!
Like at prolific prep, like before he's even stepped foot on campus in Champaign, he's saying like Coleman Hawkins is a first-round NBA draft pick.
I'm a big Coleman Hawkins guy. I see him. He is very DJ Wilson-y. Remember DJ Wilson from the 2017 team?
Yeah.
He is not going to come out and give you like 30, but he'll play the game, and then you'll notice at the end he has like 9 points, 6 boards, 3 blocks, 3 steals, just real calming force. And 6'9", 6'10", long arms, super active, and he gives you energy, right? Alfonso Plummer has been a godsend. In the past couple of games, he's been more chill, I've seen, but he had a stretch of like 6 or 7 games where I made a video about that and I put it on my YouTube. I was like, look, this cat is doing like Steph Curry numbers. Like he is killing it. And I think without him, I think you lose to that Rio Valley team that came in. I think you lose that game. I think you lose to Iowa on the road. Possibly one other game without him. I think he's been awesome. Plugging him in at the 2 and letting him and Trent just kind of like co-handle that point guard position right now. Also trusting Pods to come in to do his thing has been huge. The way that he's been able to adjust, move pieces around, not only move them around, but move them around in the right spot. A lot of coaches have the pieces. They don't know how the hell to organize them. But it seems like Underwood really took a step back, and he's really understanding how, like, what makes this team tick. And he lost 3 assistants. And being able to keep that team together when that team could have fallen off the rails. I mean, because a lot of these recruits, they're not committing to just Underwood. They're committing to their position coach who calls them all the time. And losing, he lost 2 to Kentucky, 1 to Gonzaga or Arizona?
Yeah, Gonzaga. I
mean, those aren't, in my opinion, those aren't lateral moves. Like, they're moving up. So those guys are going to places where they're about to get set to take head coaching jobs, and replacing them with guys like Chester. You know, I talked to Chester when he was at Virginia Tech, and I told him like, yo, you need to get I told him you need to get Ty Rogers, and Ty was like in the 9th or 10th grade. So it's kind of funny that like Ty actually went to Illinois. That's really funny. But yeah, man, the way that he's just adjusted the way that they're playing. And you know what? I've said this on Twitter. I think this team is better without Curbelo, and that's nothing against Curbelo. I think there are going to be games where you do need that one guy who can handle the rock and handle the pressure and really be good in the pick and roll game. But as a whole, the way that this team is ticking right now, they are very, very good. They're very, very good.
So, and I kind of want to follow up there with what you said about this team being better without Curbelo. In the last 2 games, we've now seen Illinois get run off the line a little bit. They haven't shot it as well since their own COVID pause. I think they only made 6 threes against Minnesota, and I have to go double check what they did against Maryland and last night, what they did against Nebraska. But I think that teams are starting to defend them differently. And I think that that's where Curbelo could actually be beneficial when he comes back, or if he comes back. It does sound like he'll come back this year. in terms of just facilitating an offense or when things get into a little bit of a lull, being able to run that pick and roll with Kofi. Do you think that they can end up being better with Curbelo on the roster?
I have a question
in the
for
rotation,
you.
At least.
Were any of those games within 10 points?
At the end, no.
No, they were within 10 points. They were within 10 points, bro. And teams are understanding that too. They're like, well, so we're guarding them better, but we're still losing by the same amount of points. You know why? Because Brad Underwood is also adjusting as they're adjusting. He's not waiting to get punched in the mouth several times before going, wait a minute, maybe I should do this, right? He's seeing them go like this. Then he's like, okay, I'm calculating what I got to do right now, so this punch down doesn't hurt as bad. And that's the difference between him and a lot of coaches.
Okay. So
and also, Brandon, I want to touch on this. People do think I'm a hater. They think I'm a hater because they see one or two tweets and they all of a sudden think that I just hate this school or I hate this team. Blah, blah, blah. And that's always funny to me. That's always funny to me. I always reciprocate your energy. If you come at me positively, I'm going to double that positivity right back to you. If you come at me negatively, I am going to embarrass you on the timeline. No, and I think that's totally fair. If you want to play that game, I can play that game.
Look, you need to explain it to me. You're talking to the biggest Ant Wright fan probably in Champaign.
We like you, Ed. You're funny.
I was laughing at your tweets last year when you said like, oh, Illinois hasn't been to a second weekend since this, or since when is Illinois guard you? Like, I find all that stuff funny.
I found it hilarious this week when you posted your like high school or your college highlights of Michigan, making fun of the guy who said you couldn't shoot, and you're just like, where's your shot? Because I just made like 6 in a row. That was hilarious. Like, we love you, Ant. Like, that's why we want to come on the podcast.
I mean, hey, look, you bring certain energy, I will reciprocate it. As long as you're not going overboard. If you want to have fun with giving me negative energy, I'll have fun the same way, right? If you're being hostile, I may choose to be hostile, but I will twist it to be like entertaining. But the issue is you're going to be on the wrong end of that entertainment. That's the only thing.
No, you're very good.
You're the rabbit.
You're very good at it.
Yeah. So, and I tried to not cross a certain line. And that's like the fun part, because I'm not dropping F's and I'm not calling people all these B's and I'm not doing all that stuff. I just keep it simple.
So real quick, you were talking about Illinois and speaking really positively of them, but you didn't mention one player actually in that entire kind of explanation about what you've seen out of this year's team. You didn't mention Kofi Coburn.
I did. I called him Jamaican Shaq.
Well, no, that was talking about last year's team.
Oh, well, he's still
but
there.
Same difference, right? Like, you get the point.
I would assume it still applies. But
it still applies, and he's a better Jamaican Shaq than he was last year, right?
I figured that like Kobe's like low hanging fruit. Like, he's just there, right? Yes. Like when I'm talking about Michigan, I'm not going to be like, yeah, 100 this, 100 that. Like, yeah, we know that,
So I do kind of want to ask you though about those two players, because last year coming in, obviously Hunter Dickinson is the runaway Big Ten freshman player of the year. And I think that was a pretty highly anticipated matchup. And I think this year it is too, especially with, like you said, the storylines around it before and the comments that Hunter had over the offseason at Big Ten Media Days, whatever, what have you. I feel like Hunter Dickinson has actually kind of been forgotten about this season and the type of player he has been for Michigan, right? Like, he's still averaging over 16 points. He's still averaging over 8 rebounds, close to 9. So he's still having a really good year. In fact, it's better than last season. Where has he really grown this year, and how can that matchup maybe tilt a little bit more in favor of Hunter Dickinson? Because I think last year Kofi kind of won that matchup, or at least made it a net equal.
Yeah. So first of all, his comments were kind of taken not out of context, but he did say he loves Kofi.
He did.
And he said everyone loves Kofi. Like, Kofi's the guy to like talk to random people and just start a full out conversation. Here's the thing about, can I talk about both? Kind of?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So Kofi last year and Kofi this year, I think I tweeted this either yesterday or the day before. I said the most improved players in the Big Ten. I put Kofi as an honorable mention.
I saw this.
And like, I'm pretty sure people are like, Kofi, like, isn't he doing the same thing? I'm like, no, you're not watching the game. First of all, his vision, even though he turns it over a little bit more, his vision, dude, I can't even. How do you go from not passing the ball at all and being a black hole to he had like 5 assists last year, and like 2 of them were by mistake, probably.
I think he had 4 assists. I don't even think he had 5.
Yeah, like 4, right? And like half of them he didn't like mean to do, right? He like kicked it off his foot, and then the guy got it and made it. But like this year, like he's in the post and he's looking for guys, and I think that took his game to another level. And teams couldn't just run at him anymore. Yeah. Like, not only does Illinois have shooters, maybe they haven't shot it well recently, but they got shooters, dog. Like, they got shooters. But before, if the ball went into the post, even if you were guarding a shooter, like, they were still running because they're like, look, he's not going to pass it. Even if he does, they're probably not going to make it based off of how many assists there are, right? Whether it's how he's passing it or where the ball is going, who knows, right? But now it's like, okay, not only is he catching the ball and I'm guarding a shooter, he will hit that shooter and that shooter can make it, right? I think that's another level. He's playing a bit more too, right?
Yeah, he's playing more minutes a game. He's getting up around 30 more consistently and over 30.
Yeah, so he's playing more. So he's got his wind right, got his wind together. He's just way more efficient, man. And he's so good. The matchup with Hunter, why he's kind of we only saw it once, but I never saw someone last year who can guard him one-on-one without help. And that was because Kofi, even though he's 7'3" something, he has really good feet. He has good feet. He has really good anticipation too. So part of being a good defender is understanding angles and anticipating where the player's going to go. So as Hunter is maybe sweeping baseline, Kofi's already in a shuffle, right? And he's strong enough to where you can't bump Kofi off of anything.
No.
The dude is built like a brick. Like, he is literally a brick. He is a wall. He is a brick wall. So if you hit him, you are not going to move him back. And a big part of Hunter's game is moving defenders, getting the right angle and getting to his left, sometimes his right now. Where Hunter's grown a bit this year is his jump shooting, actually. He's hit several threes this year. He's hit several mid-range jump shots too. So Kofi is going to have to come out a little bit. And I think the way that Underwood is, I think they'll allow Hunter to maybe hit a couple first before he drags him all the way out. But that's one part of his game where if the inside is not working, he can still be in the mid post, face up, and hit a mid-range shot consistently.
So I think this has been a good segue into talking about Michigan because, you're my follower for Michigan basketball. You and Brendan Quinn and Dylan Burkhart are like the 3 I pay attention to. But I feel like you're better at giving more like relaxed takes. They work for the Athletic or whatever, so they got to give these like they got to write these stories. But I feel like you just talk ball. That's
They're nerds. They're nerds.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna nerd it up. I'm gonna talk like
Yeah, you're just talking the game. But this is kind of a loaded question because I think there's a bunch of different aspects of it, at least from what I've seen. But what's been the difference between last year's team and this year's team, and maybe why has this year's team not lived up to expectations so far?
Well, we don't have 3 NBA players. First of all, right? We lose a lottery pick. We lose a second-round pick. We lose a guy who's now on a 2-way. We lose Austin Davis, who was like 6'10", 6'11", shot like 70% from the field as a backup center. Then you had Mike Smith, who was just like the orchestrator of everything. I said those 5 guys that they lost is a top 10 lineup this year. You know, like that's a top 10 lineup this year. So I'm like, look, you know, losing Shandy and losing Isaiah, losing Mike, you lose 40% shooters. You shoot guys who could come in the game and just light it up right away. And then on top of that, you lose Franz, who was the best defender that the Big Ten has seen in about 10 years.
Thank you. I said he should have been Defensive Player of the Year. So I'm like
that was so bad. I had to go live about it. Like I couldn't believe. So that's
you two are meant to be. You two are meant to be. You both love Coleman Hawkins and you both like Franz Wagner. You two are just meant to be together for the rest of life.
That is just proof to me that these voters, they don't pay attention to this stuff. They have someone write some names down, coach signs off on it, and they send it in. These coaches don't care about this.
It's like watching the ball in football. Like I don't have a Heisman vote, but if I would have had a Heisman vote this year, I would have voted for Will Anderson, the edge rusher at Alabama. And I know you're a Michigan football guy, but like
he was a dog. Will Anderson.
And Aiden Hutchinson was a great player, and he's maybe the number 1 overall pick. He did not deserve to be in New York over Will Anderson. And that's what
Will Anderson.
That's just my opinion.
Will Anderson was wild. Wild.
People just watch the ball and they don't watch what people do away from the ball and how they move. And this kind of goes into what you were saying about Kofi and his ability to feel and what Hunter is going to do. Like no one had a better defensive feel last year than Franz. Like his ability to stop a back cut was insane.
Here's the thing. Wherever Franz went, a 15-foot radius around him was also in jeopardy for the offense. Like whenever he moved, like don't do anything within this radius or he will affect something.
I compared it to like prime Darrelle Revis, where it's like you just weren't running actions to that side of the court. If he was on that side, you were running actions to the other side of the court. Like, and their defense was like 13 points better with him on the floor. They're the number 4 defense in KenPom. This year, they're the number 49 defense in KenPom, and you couldn't even make the all defense team. So
yeah, dude, like he had, I believe it was the best defensive box plus minus since Draymond.
I tweeted that stat out. I tweeted that stat out.
And he's not even on the team. Like, what are we doing here? And people are like, well, who do you take out? Flip a coin. Like, it doesn't matter. You take out somebody. But losing those guys hurt a lot, right? So you lose Mike Smith, 40% shooter. You lose Shandy Brown, 40% shooter, 6'5", big guard, gives you energy.
It was huge for them, and I don't think people understood how good Shandy was for them off the bench last year.
So good. 19 minutes a game. Oh my goodness. Illinois fans would have loved him if they.
Well, Illinois really wanted him, right? And then they weren't able to get him. I forget all the pieces that worked out with the scholarship numbers, but they wanted him and they weren't able to get him. He would have been huge for Illinois last year. I mean, he was massive for Michigan.
Yeah. Huge. So you lose Shandy, dog, Isaiah Livers. I mean, you're talking about experience. You're talking about what he did from, as a shooter, right? And they didn't replace them with those type of guys. Devontae Jones comes in. Everything translated, I would have translated, but his shot isn't fast enough. Even though he's shooting like 45% from 3, his shot still is not fast enough. Caleb Houston's coming in. Caleb Houston was a lottery pick in a lot of mock drafts coming in. Now I'm not sure anymore. His shot has struggled. Then you have Moussa Diabate. He is not a shooter at all. No. It's like Jaren Jackson without a shot. I really like Moussa. I like Moussa a lot. He gives so much energy, 6'10", long wingspan. He'll hustle for rebounds. He'll play physical. He'll bring that mentality, but not a shooter. So and then you have Eli Brooks, who used to be like he used to chill in the background.
Yeah.
Right. He was that guy chilling. He is like your guys is like Trent Frazier, like last year, where like maybe they're not really like recognizing Trent, but Trent, he will be able to, he could play on both sides because he wasn't really asked much offensively in spurts, yes, but he wasn't the ball handling. That was Io and Corbello, right? And,
Yeah.
he was the beneficiary of that. So a lot of the third or fourth best perimeter options was guarding guys like Trent. That was last year with Eli. This year, their best perimeter player is guarding Eli. Now Eli is not able to really get loose. So now, not only did three of our four best shooters not come back this year, but the other best shooter was Eli Brooks. He now has the best perimeter player on him, and they're causing him havoc. So now what you've seen is the best player is who? Hunter Dickinson. What do bigs need to do well? They need spacing. What creates spacing? Shooting. What does Michigan not have right now? Is shooting. And so it has caused a really big issue. And they haven't gotten better throughout the season. Usually you see teams on a decent trajectory to get better. That hasn't been Michigan, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought up the Houston stuff because I watched a ton of his high school tape before. I had him 5 in the preseason on my big board. Like I thought he was going to come in and not be Franz 2.0 because again, no one could be Franz, but like that similar two-way role with using his length and his shooting. And I think he's trending towards the back of the first round right now, but I think it's solely based on his high school tape. And like you said, the team context is kind of weird. There's not a lot of spacing. There's no Mike Smith to get, there's just not a lot of open looks for him. So I'm holding out some hope, but he definitely has not been as good as I have expected.
Well, Caleb, like low key, if you think about it, was a lot like Eli and Frazier coming up to this point. Who was he playing with? Cade Cunningham, Scotty Barnes, Tariq Whitehead, who's going to be a lottery pick no matter what. That dude is wild. You'll know who that is. They got like Daron Sharp. They had Zeb Jackson, who didn't even play much for Montverde. Like that's the team he was coming from. So he's not the focal point, but now he's the focal point. So now he's dealing with a much bigger load than usual. He led the Canadian team in scoring. Who did they have? Benedict Mathurin. They had Zach Edey. They had really good ball players. He's not able to hide and be that third option that just lights you up because now he's a top 2 perimeter player on this team. He like it probably goes Hunter, then it goes, okay, stop Hunter, stop Eli, then stop Caleb, right? So he's now number 2 perimeter, and they're just all over him too. So not a great formula.
So you mentioned it's not a great formula. Something that you often tweet about, and maybe this is something that it's kind of what Jawan's trying right now, is the 3 power forward lineup that he's trying out there on a consistent basis. Do you think that's something that he's forced to change, or do you think that's kind of just what he has to ride with based off of what's on their roster?
No, he doesn't have to ride with that. Absolutely not. No. No. If anything, the 3 power forwards is being forced by him. If anything is being forced. It is analytically proven that playing 3 power forwards is analytically, not only my eyes have seen it's terrible, but also the actual metrics have said it's terrible.
So what would you do instead? Like who would you trot out there instead as in your rotation?
Well, here is the rule I came up with. When Hunter is out there, it doesn't matter what you do. When Hunter is no longer in the game, that's where Michigan goes really, really bad. When is my internet good?
Yeah.
Can you guys see me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What was I saying? Hunter. So look, when Hunter's in the game, I don't really care. I don't really care who you have. I don't care. You can have Caleb Houston at the 2 for all I care. It doesn't matter. When he's out the game, you cannot play only 2 guards. You have to play 3. You cannot play Caleb at the 3 because Caleb low key is more of a 4. You have to go with 2 ball handlers and a third bigger 2 guard. So like Kobe Buffkin at the 3. You have to get quicker because if you stay big without Hunter in the game, not only are you not, so like those 3 guys don't give you really interior scoring. You're not really feeding them the rock, right? So why stay slow? If you're not even scoring on the interior, why stay slow, right? Just get faster. So play your 3 guards, then put whoever at the 4 and the 5, whether it's Musa and Johns, or it's Johns and Caleb, or it's Caleb and Musa, or Terrence and Johns. I don't care, but you got to go to 3 guards. We saw that against Rutgers, where I've been asking for this lineup all year, where you had Devontae Jones, Eli Brooks, Kobe Buffkin, Caleb was at the 4, Hunter was at the 5. That was my favorite lineup. And it was wild how much the way that the ball was moving when that lineup checked in. I was like, oh my God, they're playing basketball. They're playing basketball. The ball's not sticking. We don't have 3 guys posting up. Like, this is amazing stuff. And we saw that just for a small while. But it was good to see. It was good to see.
So, you've obviously had some qualms with some of Juwan's lineups. But I think at least from an X's and O's standpoint, last year, he was probably my favorite coach to watch in the league. Like, I think their Spain pick and roll series, and then a lot of the stuff they do off of that, whether it's, kind of ghosting the screen or just, I think a lot of the actions they do, at least last year with Mike Smith operating the offense, were really fun to watch. At how has X's and O's kind of changed this year? Like, has it been a little bit worse, or is it just more a reflection of they don't have a Mike Smith and Franz Wagner and Isaiah Livers?
Some of it is about the execution, where you'll see the play ran correctly, then you won't see it ran correctly. Like, okay, why is that? Why aren't they cutting at the right time? Why aren't they being timely with this, being timely with that? That's one piece. The other piece is we're running a lot of things that look really good when you have 40% shooters. The problem is the defense knows that you don't have 40% shooters right now. So they're not going to respect certain actions. Like, if a guy that's coming off a flare screen shoots 40%, this dude is in panic mode getting over that screen, right? Getting to his guy. Now he goes off a flare. He's like, okay, so I'm going to stand right here. I'm going to just be in the way because I know, number one, they're not going to make that pass. Number two, even if they make that pass, if I kind of close out, they're probably not going to make it. So, like, teams are really doing a lot of pack line defense and like, hey, like, look, these guys don't leave 15 feet if you're in help, and just really cluttering everything up. I can't believe Hunter is having the season he's having with no spacing. I think that part is amazing. Like, give him 40% shooting right now. He's probably averaging like 24 or 25 a game.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's how I always felt about Indiana's Trey Jackson Davis, like what he was doing last year, which just a terrible offense and no spacing. People are like, oh, he's like not that good. I'm like, no. A big needs spacing. Like what him and Hunter have been doing the last 2 years with the spacing they have has been incredible. But so you've kind of talked about how, Michigan hasn't been great to this point. Like, do you think they can return to a tournament level team, or
No,
you don't? You're out.
No.
Well, at what point did you get out?
Let me
Because
So
like
there was
because like we were looking at their schedule before, and it was kind of similar to Illinois, right? Where like two teams coming in, top 15, Michigan top 5, I think preseason, right? They take that home loss to Seton Hall, who ended up being really good, but then just like lose to obviously a really, really talented and really good Arizona team. You guys found that out before Illinois did, but then close game against Tarleton State, kind of compare that to UTRGV for Illinois, but then you struggle against North Carolina. Like, at what point did you get out on Michigan and say, this team just isn't close to what we thought it could be before the season?
I got to look at their schedule because I host the live audio after every single game, right?
Yeah.
And we talk very, very freely about these things. Number one, because I don't post it on a podcast, so you can't have someone random like go look at it and like dissect my words and like take it and then put it on a board. This is what Ant Wright said about this. Yeah. Right? They can't do that, right? So like we're in there just, kicking it. All right. So my first concern was the first loss to Seton Hall. That was my first concern. And then it wasn't the Tarleton State game. It was not that game, because if you watch that game, they play like 7 guys. They're all the same height. They don't play any big men. Just a bunch of guards. Just
And like Ohio
strong
State
guards.
the last couple of years, or Maryland, just a bitch to match up against.
Yeah, just super irritating. Like, if you forget, right after they did that to Michigan, they went to Gonzaga and did the same exact thing.
Yeah.
Like, Tarleton had Gonzaga by the nuts. Like, they had them like in a real, I believe it was like a 1-possession game with like 3 minutes left. Like, it was so close. I went and streamed it to everybody on Twitter. I was like, yo, look at this, right? So that wasn't really a Michigan thing. That was more of Tarleton just being jerks. North Carolina. Someone asked me after the game, where is my panic meter? And I said it was a 7. Said it was a 7, which I'm super optimistic about things. That kind of got people like worried. But then after the Minnesota game, I gave them I said like a 9.5 panic. And I said that because against San Diego State and Nebraska, San Diego State is now 10-3. They just beat an undefeated Colorado State team by 30. San Diego State is 10-3, and they gave them the absolute worst. Like, that game got down to like 14 at the end, but they're up by like 20 or 30 throughout the second half. But that game happened. Then they beat Nebraska. Like, they scored 102 points.
They beat Nebraska, and I kind of knew that San Diego State was solid. Like, I like what they do over there. And then they slaughtered Nebraska, who was obviously Nebraska. And I was like, they're figuring it out.
Right?
I'm like, oh, here we go. Like, look, like, because this was early December when they beat Nebraska, which is like kind of like, all right, freshmen start to figure it out around this time, Christmas, New Year's for some. And I'm like, okay, like, here they come. And then Minnesota happens. And I'm like, they don't have it.
Dude, if you went and looked at the San Diego State game and the Nebraska game, you know what they did? Guess which lineups they didn't play?
The one that you like?
They didn't play 3 power forwards. They did not play 3 power forwards. They played a bunch of they played the guards. They had a good rotation with players in both games. Musa didn't play in either one of those games. And then from Minnesota, Musa comes back and plays 32 minutes. I'm not saying Musa's the problem, but all I'm saying is you have a power forward problem.
Yeah.
You need to figure that out. the fact that we were out there guarding, what's his name, Jamison Battle, who has been amazing for them this year.
Huge.
I literally said that in a video I made back in like July or August for them. I'm like, look, if Minnesota wants to even be competitive, they need Jamison Battle to lead them in multiple categories. And that's exactly what he's doing. You're looking at Jamison Battle. They have EJ Stevens. They have Peyton, I think it's like Peyton Willis.
Yep.
3 guys who don't need a ball screen. Like if you cannot guard them straight up, you're going to be in hell. What do? We played 3 power forwards at times. So now not only do you have 3 guys who don't need a ball screen, but now we're going to guard them. At least one of them has to have a power forward on them. Do the math, right? 3 guys. You can only play 5 at a time. One of these power forwards is going to be matched up with them. Do the math, right? Whichever one they were on, they either went at them or they were put in situations where they would have to read guard concepts, which is not what they do. And they got eaten alive. When I saw that they went back to that lineup after seeing what worked for 2 straight games, I was out. I was like, this team has got issues on issues on issues. Then against Southern Utah, what do they go back to how they played against SDSU and Nebraska. They avoid the 3 power forwards. They go with the 3 guards. And then against UCF and Rutgers, right back to it. So against Illinois, I can't tell you who the rotation is. And that's gonna be what, game 14? It's amazing.
Yeah, because they're 7-6 right now.
It's amazing. It's truly amazing. So like they shouldn't even be thinking about an NCAA tournament. They should be thinking about just getting better every single game. Because if they have the roster where they can win 4 games in a row. If they're on the right page, they can win 4 games in a row. This is not a situation like Nebraska where they only have 1 guy. This isn't Penn State where they're just going to be scrappy and have a couple dudes who just go off. Like Michigan has future pros on this team. They have what? They have about 17 games to figure this out. And that's all I care about right now. Yes, you do want to win some games along the way. Yes, it's going to be tough. Yes, you still have quad 1 opportunities. Yes, you are still playing ranked teams. But at the end of the day, you're 7-6. End of the day, you have bad losses. You lose to Rutgers. UCF is it's whatever. Should have beat Seton Hall. You got a lot of games that you were right there and then you just lose. All you're playing for right now is be ready to go in March. Be ready by March. That's all I care about. Have a trajectory to be that team in March. That's where we are, Michigan basketball. That's wild to talk about. January 12th. That's wild. Absolutely wild.
Yeah, no, trust me. I think it is for everyone in the Big Ten. All right, before we let you go, we wanted to wrap up with a couple quick hitters. So if the season ended today, Ant Wright, your Big Ten Player of the Year would be?
Come on. You know the answer to that.
I don't. I think it's a pretty good question.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty wide open race.
What? It's Johnny Davis.
Okay.
It's Johnny Davis.
That's my pick right now, too.
That's my pick as well, by the way.
Johnny Davis, and he had 37 at Purdue, bro. Like he didn't do that against Penn State or Michigan. Like he did this at Purdue. 37 at Purdue. At Purdue, that's crazy. And then I think Keegan and Kofi are right there at number 2.
Okay, and
but like those are 3 guys who are like top 5 in my opinion, national players of the year type of All-American guys. And this is no disrespect. it's like low-key nice seeing it being from non-Michigan or Michigan State teams. Because it's usually those guys who are doing those things. No disrespect. No disrespect.
So does Johnny Davis win it at the end of the season?
I think teams find a way to slow him down kind of, and he kind of gets back to normal. I think Johnny Davis is still going to be a mid-first round guy. But I think he regresses to the mean just a tad. But I think
the way that I've explained this to Sim when we have talked about this, and we've talked about it a lot over the last 2 weeks, is that it's hard for me to say that Kofi doesn't get it if Illinois finishes second in the conference and he finishes averaging 20 and 10. Because I think there's only been 4 or 5 guys since like 1990 or something that have done that. And averaging 20 and 10 is incredibly difficult. And I think he's the only high major player in the country to be doing it right now. Like, it's just really hard for me to imagine that he's not getting a significant share of that vote if he's the only high major player to do that.
I'm with you.
I don't see Illinois finishing below second or third in the league.
Yeah, I think Illinois has a legit shot. Let me see, because the rankings now have kind of mimicked how the year has gone, right? They have 6 more ranked games left. That's it, just 6 more. And of those 6, 4 of those are at home, that's favorable. At Assembly. So, that means something. That means something for sure. If Purdue doesn't win the league, I will never ever argue about Matt Painter if there's ever slander on my timeline again. Every time I see Matt Painter slander on my timeline, I put on my black and gold shield and I go to bat for him. But if he doesn't win the league this year, with what he had coming back, with his schedule that he has for the rest of this year, they have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more ranked games. If they don't win it, that's going to be a real problem. I could not. Nope.
I agree. I still I think they need to win it. And I still think they can. And going to my head today, I still think they will. I think they can go into Champaign and just take care of Illinois and then get them at home.
So good.
It's like when it looks good, there's just no team in the league that looks better. But
now they have a point guard problem.
Yeah.
They have a point guard problem, and I didn't see that coming in.
And they have a defense problem. They don't guard.
Yeah, that too.
I said this on our last podcast about them. And I think this Purdue team is a lot better than the team I'm going to compare them to. But there's times where I watch them and they look like Iowa last year, where they just don't look like they know how to guard at all. And it's infuriating because I feel like Trevion Williams is a good individual defender. I think Jaden Ivey can be a really good individual defender. I don't know anyone who can easily score on Zach Edey in the paint, right? Mason Gillis guards his ass off, plays really hard. I don't understand why it doesn't all fit defensively for them.
They don't have a really good athletic perimeter defender. And that's what they usually have. I mentioned this the other day, the game of Chris Kramer and Raphael Davis, those guys are gone. Those 6'3" to 6'5" dudes who just don't care about anything except biting the other team's ankles and shins. That's all they cared about. They didn't care about anything else. And, Purdue doesn't have that this year. They don't have that, and they don't have a point guard, which I thought coming in, I thought both Eric and Thompson were going to be good with the ball, but now they've had to play Ethan Morton extended minutes to be more of a defensive guy. And I think they're going to have to change to put Jaden Ivey in as the point, which is absolutely insane. But to your point, man, I think Kofi being a big and being such a reliable piece, and not a lot of bigs can really stop him. I think that's going to really put him in prime position for the player of the year. when you have some, that's kind of why I like Luka Garza won it last year and not Dosumu. It's because, like Luka, the dude was the perfect college big. He could shoot like 5 or 6 threes, made him out like 40%. And then he had so many post moves. And when he got fouled, he made his free throws. Like he was the absolute perfect college big man right now. But like, Keegan Murray, I don't think Iowa is going to finish high enough.
No.
And I just think Johnny Davis, he's what, 6'4", 6'5". Teams are going to be able to like scheme and try to get him out of the game. There's nothing to scheme Kofi out the game unless you like get pumped up on like HGH or something for like 24 hours.
All right, let's throw one name in here, and I have to do it, and I almost forgot, which is really unlike me. How about EJ Liddell?
EJ Liddell.
I know you don't like talking about the Buckeyes very much because you're a Michigan
first team guy. No, I don't care, dude. I'm such a basketball guy. Like basketball comes first, and rivalries and all that crap is like fun and entertaining. But like I just love the game, dog. EJ Liddell's tough. I think he's going to be a first teamer. I don't think player of the year. He just doesn't have this. Sounds weird, but he's just not sexy enough. Look at Keegan Murray, long, lanky. He got he looks like a pro out there. Johnny Davis, the way that he's doing things. I'm not calling him Steph Curry, but he's doing things without the measurables or the athleticism and speed, and he's still putting up crazy numbers. Kofi is just being just a brute, right? He's literally just being Shaq out there, and I think that stuff sticks out. And what Liddell is doing is a little bit like more traditional, I'd say.
I like that take.
You know what I mean? More traditional. Yeah. It doesn't lessen him as a player, but he's just not going to get the sexy votes.
He doesn't
Jay
have
Nivey is going to be a first teamer. But
he doesn't
Jay
have
Nivey,
the help either. Like EJ doesn't have teammates that can like help him get wins, because so much of it is being a team that's good too, right? Like this is why we think Keegan Murray falls off it unless he ends up leading this country in scoring. But like Malachi Branham has stepped up and he's played better. Jamari Wheeler's been better for Ohio State too. But like, and Kyle Young is Kyle Young, but none of those guys are close to as good as what you need help wise if you're EJ. And I think eventually Ohio State's going to have to really ride him. And there's going to be games where you just don't have enough next to him to get a tough road win or a tough home win.
That's facts. Malachi Branham has been is someone who you can see really moving up and being that guy, being a Washington junior, right? Being that guy who makes tough shots, alleviates some of the pressure off of Liddell somewhat. But once again, we have 5 guys, one of them at Michigan or Michigan State. And I think that's also, I think that's so good for Big Ten hoops. Because when people think Big Ten, they think Michigan State, in my opinion. Some Ohio State because of the football thing. But when it comes to like basketball, Michigan State, right? And I think having so many other schools in the conversation for guys who are being recognized on a national level, I think is huge. It's just huge.
All right, I can hear Walker in the background a little bit, so I think we'll let you go. But before we do,
hey Walker, come here.
Let's get him on the pod.
Walker, come here.
This is great podcasting. I love it.
Listening at home, Ant is bringing on his son Walker, who, if you follow him on Twitter, is like in the 99th percentile for all babies and height and weight. And
come here.
You can hear him in the background now.
He's got a braid today, so his hair's not crazy.
Let's go. What's up, Walker?
Hi, Walker.
You say hi. He's waving.
Hi, Walker.
You gonna wave hi?
Hey.
What's up?
Oh.
You say hi.
Oh.
He woke up at like 11 o'clock the other night, So like he could like climb out of his crib and open the door if he wants. So like,
So he's a Wolverine in the making, is what you're saying.
right. So like he gets out. We like hear him like thumping upstairs. We're like, okay, here he comes. He like comes downstairs, looks at me, like pulls my hand, and he's like, "Come on, shoot."
Oh, he
I'm
actually
like,
is
"You
a
want to
Wolverine in
hoop
the
right
making.
now? Like, what are you doing? Wolverine in the making? Dog, absolutely not. Wolverines don't throw bags. We don't throw, we go into the biggest bag.
Oh,
I mean,
I
when you're,
like
in the,
it.
when you're in the 99.9 percentile for weight and height,
Yes.
I'll chase that bag.
Bronny
Yes.
Jr. no more. Bronny Jr. is not the most touted youngster anymore.
Talk to him.
All right. So, Amp, before we let you go,
Don't close that.
Amp, before we let you go, do you have a prediction for the game on Friday?
A lot to a little.
Yeah.
I think Illinois is going to score about 80 or 90, and I think Michigan's going to be around 70.
Fair enough. I think I'm in the same boat.
Yeah. I don't think there is going to be a spread that's high enough that's not going to get absolutely hammered.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, those are all the questions we have. Thanks for joining us. Will you be doing a green room during the game?
Afterwards, yes.
Okay.
Watch
So if
that.
you want to come on afterwards and kick it and hang out, come do your thing, Doc.
Sweet.
Yeah, Illinois fans, if you want to learn about the game or listen to a Michigan fan's perspective, or if we have Michigan fans in the pod, definitely check Ant's green room out. You can follow him on Twitter at it's Ant Wright, right? WRIGHT. And thank you so much for joining us today.
No problem. You say bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.